Okay, here we are in After Effects, and we're going to use the old one that I've made, the old render of the Pebble. Um, so what I'm going to do is create a new comp. I'm going to call this Pebble Tutorial. Make sure it's 1280 by 720. That's what I rendered out the Pebble sequence as. 23.976 frames per second, or you could do 24. Either way is fine. Square pixels, and hit OK. Okay, so first thing we want to do is bring in our background. Now, for my background, I am using a texture from Andrew Kramer's Evolution set. I can't. That's why there's no project file with this. I can't redistribute that texture, but you can find your own texture if you have Evolution. Great, use that. So you can see I've got my composition here pretty organized. So in my footage I have my texture. Just drag that out. Okay, so it's pretty big, so I'm going to kind of place this where I think I want it here, but where I had it in the other one. Well, there should do it. Okay, now first thing I want to do is color correct this and make it kind of a brownish, rusty, grungy looking color. So I'm going to come to Effect, Color Correction, Curves, and I'm going to come into my red, bump that up a bit here. Green, I'll bring that up a little bit, and then RGB, I'm actually going to bring this down to get some nice contrast in this here. Maybe a little more green. Alrighty, that looks pretty decent. We're going to color correct the entire thing again later. So the next thing I want to do is come back into my project, and I'm going to grab this AE Toots Plus logo I have. I'm pretty sure it's available for download somewhere on the site. It's just I have a Adobe Illustrator file here loaded up in here. I'm going to hit W and rotate this around. And I'm going to mess the logo up a bit here. And scale it up. Oop, got some interference there with Camtasia. And a little marker. Alrighty, and just bring that in till it's close enough. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is hit F4, change my transfer mode to multiply, or actually classic color burn is what I used. That gives it this interesting look here, and then I'm going to just take my pen tool. I want to make it look like it's chipped and kind of faded out and whatnot. So what I'm going to do, oops, I'm going to just kind of make it look like this is chipped with a mask here. Alright, and then hit MM, that brings up our mask, and I'm just going to hit subtract. I'm not going to worry about feathering it at all because we want it to look jagged and chipped and messed up here. So that looks okay for what we're going for here. And the next thing we want to do is bring in our titling. Actually, let's bring in the Pebble right now. So all I'm going to do is bring this in, and I'm going to drop it right on top of our comp. Now, if you remember, first let me go like this as well, and we'll trim this down to 5 seconds. So I'm just going to bring my work area in, right-click on the work area bar, and trim comp to work area. It's going to bring us into 5 seconds. So if you remember, we had the shadow that we couldn't see, but here it is. It looks nice, follows it perfectly. So there we've got that here. Now we want to color correct this a little bit, and we want to bring some kind of green brownish overtones. So the way to do that is, again, you could add an adjustment layer, but I like to have a little more control over each layer, so I'm more of a node-based guy, so I tend to do everything for itself just for extra control. So I'm going to again Effect, Color Correction, curves. I'm going to do the same thing, bring down the RGB as a whole. That might do it actually for us. That looks good. Maybe. Let's bring some red out rather than adding green. Okay, that looks alright. Matches pretty nicely. And now you can see we have some jagged edges. That could be from one of two things. One, adaptive resolution is enabled. That could be it. I don't think in this case it is, though. Let me bring this to 100%. Okay, now you can see here it looks nice because when you see that jaggeding, it's that jagged edge there is aliasing, and it could be from one of two things. One, you have a bad render, or two, you have your comp set to something other than 100, which will make that alias the edges. So depending on what your situation is, you might need to blur it or do some things with the edges, but in this case it looks fine. Alrighty, so from here, what we want to do next is add our text. So I use a little thing called Font Picker, and that's this application right here. This is available for Adobe Air, and it's free. Just go ahead and search on Google Adobe Air Font Picker, and you'll get this here. What it does is it takes all your system fonts, sticks them in here, and you can you can type things and see what it looks like in all of your fonts. For this, I've chosen to use a font called Epoxy History. It's available for free. I'm pretty sure on dafont.com, DAFONT.com, and it looks pretty good for our application here. So that's what we're going to use. So here, my text box out here. I'm going to grab my text tool and click anywhere in there, and I'm going to make this a bit bigger, probably about 127-ish looks okay. Grab my Epoxy History font. And I'm going to type in here just AE Toots Plus. And just highlight this, make it a little bigger maybe. That should be alright. And I'm going to move it over, position this here. I'm going to make sure my anchor point is right in the middle. Just hit Y, brings up the pan behind tool. You can move that around. Alrighty, I'm going to move this kind of where I think it would look alright. W, and then rotate it a little bit. Maybe we'll make it a bit bigger here. Okay, that looks okay. And then what I'm going to do is change the transfer mode again to classic color. Actually, this one, multiply. Let's try overlay. A lot of the times with these transfer modes, it just comes down. It comes down to just tweaking it and getting it to where you think it looks good. Now I'm going to hit T on the keyboard and bring up my opacity and bring that down a little bit. And you can see we're getting a color variation here, so I want to bring it out of that. And I'll bring it under my AE Toots Plus logo. And just rotate this till it looks good. That's good enough. Okay, and what we might do now even is bring our opacity down just a bit more, just so it looks decent. That's just for some flair. Now also what we want to do, just above our texture, is we want to add a new layer. I don't know if you can see that there, but I'm adding a new solid black. Hit OK. Make comp size. I'm going to call this grunge, or you can call it whatever you want. I'm going to call it grunge. Make sure it's comp size. Hit OK. I'm going to bring it right above my texture. Actually, right above my AE Toots Plus. And I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to type in fractal. And I'm going to drag out onto this fractal, the fractal noise out on top of this here. Now I want to just do some things here really fast. I'm going to change that to Probably, yeah. Yep, terrain's gonna work okay. Invert that. Well, maybe not. Let's look, see what it looks like so far. Okay, and I'm going to change my transfer mode right now. I think we'll try multiply here. And now just kind of tweak it around until you get it to look like how you want it. It's going to be a little different every time because it's based on randomness. So that looks pretty good here. And actually, let me change this blending mode back to normal. Change this to... Alright, multiply seems to work best. And that just adds some grunge to our thing there. And we can change the evolution until we get it to look like we want it. And again, you could sit here and tweak this all day. But that looks good. That also works kind of as an adjustment layer. So if we were to put that above the logo, it would change the way that looked. Above the Pebble, it would change the way that looked. We don't want it above the Pebble because that's obviously supposed to be above everything. Okay, so that's looking pretty good so far. Another thing that I did just for kicks was I put a little text here that said, you know, workflow techniques and style techniques for Adobe After Effects. We're not going to do that. We'll just blow by it. One last thing, however, I want to do is create a new solid. Color doesn't matter. And I'm going to call this ambient dust. And black's fine. It's not going to be there anyhow. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to pick trap code and particular. Okay, and you can see we have that just basic default here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my emitter type to a box. I'm going to change my emitter size. I'm going to bring it out so it's bigger than our comp every way. Even up like this so we get a little bit of depth of field there. Alright, now change my particles per second. Right here I'm going to change it to 1500. I'm going to keyframe that. Oh, make sure I'm at my first frame. I'm going to keyframe the particles per second. Come to 1 second, or maybe 12 frames. And I'm going to keyframe that down to 0. And then I'm going to drag this over so that way we have those particles always there. Alright, now what I'm going to do is change this, go to my particle settings, change the size and the life. I'm going to change that to like 20 seconds just so we don't lose any particles. Sphere feather, I'm going to change that to all the way up. Size 1.3 should do it. And then I'm going to grab the color out of here and make it a little brighter. Hit OK. So now we've just got some random ambient dust there. I do want to make it a little slower, however. So I'm going to come back into my emitter. And come to velocity and change this to about 10. So it just kind of floats around there. Alright, and then one last thing I'm going to do to this layer is go to Effect, Stylize. You can't see it, but down there is one called Glow. And that's just going to pop it out a little bit more to give it that, to give it a nice little feeling there. Okay, now what we want to do is you can see the pebble disappears at like 2 seconds. So what we want to do is duplicate this. So I'm going to go to Edit, duplicate. You can also hit Control D. And I'm going to take these two layers here, and I'm going to hit Control Shift C, and I'm going to pre-comp these, called Pebble. And I'm in my Pebble comp. Wait a second here. I'm going to close this one out, grab this one. Okay, so you can see we've got some stuff to do here. And I'm going to page forward until we get to the last frame and select this here. I'm going to right click, and in my time menu I'm going to hit freeze frame. What that's going to do is, you'll see when we drag it out, it's just going to freeze frame our last little bit there, just so we have enough to work with. And if we zoom in, you can see something that we're going to have here. Well, it didn't stick out too much here, so we should be all right. Sometimes, if you have two, actually it might stick out on the shadow. Okay, looks like it came out pretty good. Sometimes if you stack them on top of each other like that, what you'll get is a little variation in density and color, just because you have two on top of each other. But it looks like we're doing all right with it for this one. So that looks exactly like what we need here, and we'll come back here. So now we have some more to work with our Pebble. We have some, oh, you see we did get it there. You've got that flash. So what you want to do is just come and just drag it over so you have the frames so they don't overlap there, and there you go. Looks fine. Okay, so what we want is this. Right when it hits, we want it to flash to reveal our first title. So right there is about when it hits. Now this is a fairly easy process actually. All I'm going to do is create a new solid, bring this up, make sure it's kind of a bright red color. Okay, make comp size okay. And now just for while we're working, I'm going to bring the opacity down quite a bit here so we can see. And I'm just going to grab my pen tool, and I'm going to draw a circle around our thing here. A fairly large one, just so we can get some working room here. And we'll close that off. And I'm going to bring up the mask properties, MM on the keyboard. Oh, we'll leave that at add, but we want to feather this out. That's good. So I'm going to M again, bring that out, hit T, and also hold Shift and hit S. So that's going to bring up our scale and our opacity. And when we bring up our opacity, you can see we've got this bright color, this bright red here. That's exactly what we want. And let me move this a little. Put the anchor point right on our Pebble here. Okay, now this is the frame we want it to flash. So we want this to be big, like right about there. And we want, at this point, we want the opacity to be 90, looks about right, 91-ish. So let's keyframe the opacity and the scale. And then we'll come backwards about 3 frames, and we'll bring the opacity down to 0, and we'll bring the scale just really small here. Edit value, we'll make it 0. So now you have that flash. It hits and bang, there's a flash. Now the easiest way to make this go back down, rather than redo all these keyframes, is to grab this, grab these keyframes here. Make sure you have your CTI where you want it, your current time indicator, where you want the next keyframes to go. Highlight the ones you want to copy, go to Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste. And that's going to put those keyframes back. Now a flash, you want it to kind of be a circular, not a circular, but to be kind of an easy ease curve. That's what it's called in After Effects. So just highlight those two and hit F9. That's going to change the animation curve so it kind of pops. So now if we RAM preview this, you'll see what we've got. flashes. Now a little off right now because we changed that keyframe. So let's bring that back one frame. That should be good right there. Just line it up however you think it would look good. Okay, and then right here is where we want our first text to be revealed. Now I'm going to buzz through this here. And epoxy history, you can see the same one. We'll just come in here and bring our size down. One thing you want to avoid is writing in your old text box. So we'll just come here, bring our size up a little bit, and we're going to put AE toots plus, hit enter on the keyboard, will bring your cursor down, and then we're going to put presents. Make sure we spell it right. Dot dot dot, and then enter on the number pad will close off your box. And I'm going to bring this up to about right here. And then all you want to do at this point is bring your text right there, bring it under there, and there you have it. Nice text reveal. AE Toots presents, and then what we want to do is create another flash so we can reveal a second title. And this is all just stylistic. You can do these reveals however you want, but for this, I think it looks pretty decent just doing it this way. So I'm just going to take this, Control D, and take the second one, drag it down, double click, and then I'm going to type red Pebble with a question mark. And this font tends to look good when you kind of scrunch it up together. It's still pretty readable. And we'll put this one right around here somewhere. We'll bring it out to maybe 2 seconds. And we'll cut that one off. And then we'll take these keyframes. Same as before, copy, copy, paste, and then bring them over, and there you have the second text reveal. Just bring that over about to there, and make sure that gets cut off right there. Alright. So pretty simple in what it's doing here, but at the same time you can do a lot with a technique like this. So let's see what we've got. A little fast, we could slow it down a bit, but that's all in the tweaking. And looks pretty decent. So my name's Evan Scheibel with AE Toots Plus. I hope for the beginners that this answered some questions, and look for more coming. We're going to do a collaborative toot pretty soon with CG Toots and AE Toots, a really probably high-end visual effects shot, and look for that coming up soon. And again, my name's Evan Scheibel, and thanks for watching.